Hey, hey, hey.
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 Look who's back.
Hey.
Yay.
Yeah, we're here.
Here.
Welcome, kid. How getting tired?
Very. I feel mash up.
It's been
But
nonstop.
in a good way.
What?
I just, you know.
But you did tell me today that you love it, so you know.
I do. I love it. I love going non-stop. I love going from one rehearsal to another. And then the only thing I can do when you reach home is sleep.
Mm.
And I love waking up in the morning knowing that my day is packed with creative work.
Nice.
What is your sun sign again, Michael Hoggett?
I'm not even sure. Well, I'm a Capricorn.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It lines up.
It lines up. It lines up. Work non-stop. Yeah. Keep going.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes these things line up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So where are we today?
So today we're gonna deal with Ded-leff or set good, like ice in a freezer. Succession planning. Succession planning. But first, Talla Wah Yuh Seh. So Mikey was missing last week because he was busy and doing work, doing creative work. He had, one of those full schedules. And we spoke about what we spoke about, Neila. We remember.
Listen to me. You just dropped back a while ago. Like a complete black. No, man. It was about the business, creativity costs.
Yes, creativity. And we got some feedback. Well, you can choose from some of the feedback. And we got feedback from a previous episode too. Remember what was said?
It was quite a bit, I must say, because it was from a virgin of mine who is a Jamaican artist in China. And he's been taking copious notes. He really is enjoying hearing us and connecting with and even disagreeing, because that's a big part of the dialogue anyway. Not agreeing with certain things. He, for example, I think in relation to episode 4 was pointing out that there are still some fears when it comes to how much technology is allowed to influence the way we make and the way we become, the way we make ourselves as humans, because we're always making ourselves, we're that dynamic that everything that we do shapes us, and everything we do continually continues to shape us. And one of his concerns is that we're forgetting about the tactile, we're forgetting about the feeling, the texture in favor of the technology, based upon where not individuals necessarily are going, but where like industries or the arts industries are going in a certain kind of, conceptual sort of space, where some people may not even value picking up the paintbrush, putting it to the canvas, or picking up the charcoal again, So I think he's concerned about the balance, because I guess that is also driven by market things, as against, because technology also democratizes who can think of themselves as an artist, call themselves a creative, which is not so bad. But then at the same time, there are certain kinds of refining first principle details that the technology can kind of filter away, whitewash. So for example, I can use an app and get filters and color balances. Right. Somebody like a Gabriel Blackwood, for example, brilliant cinematographer from Jamaica, will know exactly what to do film-wise to get that, Right. And in doing that, in knowing that the technology assists her, but then there's a whole cadre of people like me who is not dabbling, but like using maybe technology as like a cheat code without understanding the reason why, how you mix those colors from first principles. Why do those things work for whatever it is? You understand what I mean?
Yeah, but why do you need to know those things? That's a question I have. Like, why?
Well, Mike, just to answer your question, it's the same thing I was heading at.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of tailoring of what you're doing to serve your story or whatever you're trying to tell. That the person who has those first principles can do that. The person who's just using a filter is probably going to just rely on whatever filters are available that other people who knew the principles have created. So you are not as flexible or as adept at tailoring your the tools that you have to tell the story that you have that you want to tell. But also, at the root of almost everything is what story is a good story, whether it's a song or a film or a dance or a whatever or a piece of art. The root of it is a good story and being able to communicate that story and emotion to an audience. So if you could have you could have all the tools
Very
and
true.
even all the techniques, even the first principles you could have. If you don't have a
Yeah.
story to tell, what's the point?
Yeah. I remember there was a time when it might have been about 4 years ago. I came up on concept of just-in-time learning. And just-in-time learning really has to do with, like the things that you maybe see in a manual that might be in maybe a factory space or a space where the skills are easy to learn and you just need to know it for that time and you don't have to know why you're doing it. You just need to know that when the thing comes over to you, you need to press that thing on it, right? And there are people who had been wondering, okay, so there's so many things that we were told that we need to know the background for, when really and truly those are things that could be subsumed in just-in-time learning so that you're not taking up your brain space with a lot of first principles of things that you don't really need to know. Like if I'm going to fix, and YouTube does that. So if I'm going to fix the toilet tank, do I really need to understand the principles of pipes and the plumb and the this and the that? Or can I just do that, learn it and go? And that has also come into the realm of the creative in terms of the especially when things are now considered content and not necessarily art. So you learn how to do the thing via the app, you learn to do how to do the thing via YouTube or some other online channel, and you go and you make the thing quickly and you put it out there quickly, because that's also a thing, as against thinking that you have to do first principles, go through go through the ringer in certain ways in order to produce something that is artistic or creative. So yeah.
Would both of you agree that people might approach learning from different ways? Like somebody might approach their starting point might be this pre-done, this template or this thing that is already done for them. But then when they realize that, yes, I can use this more, or I need to know more about this to develop what I want to do, they might then go to the first principles. So it
For
could be a
sure.
doorway anyway.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. I wouldn't say it wouldn't. It's just that I guess if you kind of look, if you take a bird's eye view and use the past to inform what you think the future might be, which is not really how many of us want it to be, right? But still, you will say, okay, well, this is kind of how things have been tending to go. And so I could very well see where it could continue. But you're quite right. There are people who use that as their entry point, that just-in-time moment as their entry point, and then now become clear about first principles. And so they don't lose the tactile part of it. They don't lose the investigative part of it. It's just that they came to it in a different way. So, I mean, I understand there's a healthy concern. Even when you're thinking about writing, both you and Mikey Holgate have things published. You have books published, and yeah, it is actually quite concerning in terms of the fact that copyrighted material is needed to train it, and you're not going to be asked for permission. It's happened already to a number of artists whose work is on Amazon or wherever else. That it's not really even public domain, but it's almost there within the circuitry
The ether.
of the web, in the ether of the web. And so because you've created something, then your copyright means nothing to it. So it's becoming this very hungry kind of all-consuming thing that is supposed to be helping us. But I don't know. I think the monitoring of it and the the shaping and the guiding of where it goes that is concerning.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
I think at the end of
because
the day, the
mhm,
person who is doing more, the person who understands how to use these use technology, but also has that background information and has the capacity because they have done some training and development and other things outside of the technology, they will be so much more competent. Their work will be so much more valuable and valued, I think, in the long run, because they can guide the technology even more. But
mhm,
another day, are their works also going to be stolen by
mm,
somebody who don't have all of their capacity, but can just at the tip of a finger
mhm,
access their capacity through technology and seem, much more competent. So
right.
it's a it's a it's a thing that we have to watch. But I was talking to somebody recently, and I said that, well, let's do some, you were talking about jingles and stuff like that, and the person said, well, jingles can be made now by AI, so that's where we're going to focus. And I said, well, that there's certain things that the artificial intelligence can't do, that they can't create a show, they can't perform, they can't go on a stage. And the person said, well, not yet. And I said, well, sufficient to the day are the evils thereof. So until they can
Mhm,
do it,
right.
we know what they can do, and we're going to just do what we can do and give thanks
Yeah.
and keep on focusing on that, even while we say watch technology. Because at the end of the day, the 8 billion people on the planet need work. Yeah,
Mm.
it cannot be
Yeah.
that so that when technology takes over everything, then what the people who don't have no longer can paint or no longer can do certain things. What
Mhm,
are they supposed to do? Sit and twiddle their thumbs and um do what while technology is doing all the things that human beings used to do. So those are the things that we also need to think about when it comes
mhm,
to technology.
mhm.
What will be our things to do while technology is doing the things that we used to do?
Right. But Mike, that what you just said also kind of brings me back to a conversation that Neila and I were having about. I mean, I should the two telecom, the two representatives from
Mhm.
two telecom companies were I guess on the radio, Neila, and
Yes,
they're
they
talking about
were.
the devices, and and they were kind of uh
The
you know
writing.
deriding people who need the tactile thing of the buttons and the whatever. But
Mhm,
as I was saying, I mean, so this is just to say that there is room for all of it. Because just because AI can paint doesn't mean that I'm going to stop painting. Um,
Exactly.
right,
but
right.
also they're in their thinking they're 2 years behind because
Yeah.
I mean that is why we have all these fidget spinners now because people need the tactile thing. They need to press a button. They need to hear a
Humanity
sound, a click,
needs
and
it.
a pop.
Yeah, your
Right?
cognition needs it. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's why now you go on Amazon and you see all of these computer keyboards, these Bluetooth computer keyboards with the big things that look like typewriters. So you have that clacking sound, and you're actually pushing a button, and you have something physical in your hand, and then they're making phones with bigger buttons and that make the sound, so
Mhm,
that people can actually have the sensation of pressing the button to dial to do what I'm
mhm.
doing. So there's room for all of it. Some people like to swipe, and some people like to press a button. So.
Hmm.
And both sensations are important. They do different things for us because that you see, we keep thinking that we're verbal only and we're visual only and we're auditory only. We forget about olfactory. Very, very serious. We forget about gustatory, extremely serious in terms of the things that you can taste and what it does to and for you. And we forget about the tactile.
Mhm.
Like even when we keep wear shoes everywhere and we're not barefoot, our feet, the muscles in there need to actually deal with some stone and some gravel and some this and some dirt, and that if that actually affects your physical health. So
Yeah,
I
it does.
mean I don't like the idea of which is what happens a lot with when people are introducing technology and technological things, is that they say out with the old and in with the new, not realizing that nothing ever really needs to be old because we're all on a spectrum. And the truth of the matter is, everybody wants long life, but then
Mhm.
at the same time, when people are living long, they don't want them to also be taken care of.
Right.
The people
Yeah,
who
we
live
want to live
long,
long. We want to live long, healthy.
They want to live long, healthy. But even so, even if you live long, healthy, there's still going to be certain kinds of things like the 2G, the bangers. You're going to want to be able to use those, right? To do your basic things. You don't want to have to go and do a swipey and figure out an app and all these kinds of things. Everybody doesn't have to go along for the ride that way. Why do we all have to try to sweep everybody into a certain sort of way and then deride you or decry your need to also have the tactile, which is human? In fact, I think the older ones among us remind us about and the
Are we frozen? Is Neila frozen?
Yeah, Neila is a bit frozen, I think.
Is she back?
Not
There you
yet.
go.
Yes. I'm hearing her.
We're hearing you, but her picture still frozen.
Oh, hold on, I'm frozen.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, so I just put on my. I don't want to take it off. I just put on my Ethernet.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, so I think I'm all right now. Maybe it's because we're talking about them. A joke.
Remember, they're listening.
Yes.
All the time. But
All
like
the
I was even thinking generationally, when you talk about persons who are able to straddle the tactile with the digital, the analog with the digital, generationally, you know, we and the millennials are probably the last of those because we never grew up with the digital in front of us as part of our lifeblood. Those who grow up with the digital in front of them don't know how much the tactile is important. They're not doing things. Even the other day, somebody was talking about the pep preparations, right? I was saying, oh, even to understand, oh, him girlfriend, I think he must be drive taxi or so he's out at all hours. Him come home late at night and him girlfriend is up doing pep project. She is up there doing the pep project. And he must say, welcome to the art class and them something that them used to do. So them learn off make them something themselves. Why the mother up there doing it? And it's not just that. The amount of print out, go to Google and look and print it out. That's not learning. That's maybe only one aspect of learning, but like that tactile stuff is very important for development of the brain and development of cognition. So we do have to be careful. And I mean, maybe our generation is the one that needs to be more vocal about that because the others coming up don't know what they need. They don't know anything different. You know?
I remember I was talking recently again with some people in my office at Philip Shark Center, some young people. I was saying, I remember when I saw the first cell phone. I can remember when and then we went on to talk about when we had to use Encyclopedia Britannica and you had to go to the library. And some people bought it. Yeah, some parents bought it for their kids and had it in the house, and you had these 16, 24, whatever books.
Yeah, we had them at home.
Massive books, and you had them in your house, and when you need to research something, that's where you go.
Remember?
Yeah.
I remember, I think they had to pay down little on the encyclopedia.
Ah, yes, you could do that. Yes.
You have to pay down little on the encyclopedia.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, the encyclopedia was on a set of CD-ROMs.
Right. Remember that?
Yeah.
And now encyclopedia is Google.
It's Wikipedia and Google.
Which is dangerous.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
I can create anything and say that this is, this is what Tallawah is, and this is what Michael Holgate means, and this is what,
Yeah.
So literally, we are we're creating these whole entire worlds of meaning that are not verified.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and that's even the thing with the social media thing, which is media used to be about accuracy, and all most of them used to tell we lie. So things like we're looking at, how we look at certain sects or religions and stuff like that. We know we used to get lie, but there was verification system.
In journalism, maybe not necessarily media, but journalism.
Journalism, we're talking, man.
Yeah.
But no, it's just not. Yeah, there's no verifying. It's just like this social media. This person comes out and say, "I am this and I've done this and blah blah blah," and millions of people believe it and they have no clue of what that is. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is a long Talla Wah Yuh Seh. Let us go upon the tabletop, shall we?
Yes, we shall. Let's go.
Boy. Yeah. So just in case we don't remember what we're talking about, Ded-leff are
Ded-leff are set good. Succession planning in the arts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Touchy topic, you know.
Yeah.
Touchy topic.
Well,
Wait.
I mean,
an
some people
extremely
don't.
important topic as well. Touchy, but important, and especially, I mean, with our generation, we are at a space and a stage in our lives where we're seeing so many people who we grew up watching on stage, listening to their words, interacting with them as elders in our space, moving on, passing through, going on, transitioning, dying, if you want to say the word.
Yeah.
And so very recently on Sunday, we had a tribute for a theater great thespian, Brian Heap. We call him Sir Heap.
Sir Heap.
And what is so important is that succession planning means that you get to carry on, or the work that people have done, the development that has come through gets an opportunity to continue, and other people can benefit from learning and sharing in the kind of creativity and training and developmental work and arts that was there. So yeah, it's extremely important.
But are we seeing it happen?
Mm.
I know. I think it's happening more now than it used to. But what are well? Let's be positive. What are some of the examples of it that we have seen, where it's evident that there was some kind of a plan for
Ashe,
Yes.
definitely, yeah.
Ashe for sure. So with Ashe, Conroy Wilson and I, as Conroy as executive director of Ashe and me as artistic director of Ashe, we were in a similar kind of position from before our executive director Joseph Robinson passed away. So we were already, Conroy was a managing director at the time, and I was artistic director. And Joe, when Joe passed away, we had a discussion and said, how are we going to do this? Because we had a sense of what Joe wanted, planned, and we were already doing the work, because I think that's how succession planning really works. Succession planning is not just planning. Succession planning is having somebody or some people in space learning from you, working with you, being mentored by you, being educated and trained in the way you expect them to go, and also given freedom to do their own thing. But they're already in the system while you are alive. That's succession planning. It's not just when me dead, you get the Ded-leff and you go sort out yourself and you get a little money, or you get some little thing and you go do something with it and you do your own thing. No, succession planning means a sort of mentorship and a sort of training wheel kind of mentality while the person who is in charge or the authority is still alive,
It's difficult to find, because even succession planning is necessary for, even if you don't pass away, but if you become very, very ill. We've seen where people who are brilliant in the dance world, like Sheila Barnett, had Alzheimer's for years. But luckily I think she set up something sensible in terms of, at least with her family, her daughters having her writings and that sort of thing. But at the same time, there was not necessarily anyone who was given within, I guess within the world of dance, was given the responsibility to hold the works. I mean, you'd have to go to her daughters and so on, and they would figure out. But it's a matter of, who do you see when you one, I think, how do you see your work? All of the works that you're doing, how do you see them? How do you regard them? Do you regard them as actual legacy? Do you regard them as cultural capital? Do you regard them as actually being worth looking at when you're gone, right? And a number of us, I will say, we make a lot of things, we make so many things, but we don't, because it takes a lot of time to figure them out, to document them, to make sure that they're in a way, in a form that can be continued once you're not there to explain them for yourself. So we have to look at how we are seeing the things that we're making, and then how are we seeing the people who we are making them with, and how, meaning especially those who are younger than us, and how are we seeing, and when I say things we're making too, it could be a methodology for teaching something. It doesn't have to be that we're making an artistic product. It could be that you have a particular method, a Mikey Harris method for teaching so and so and so. And so you are already connecting with other people, inadvertently mentoring them, inadvertently shaping them. But is any one of them, do they look like somebody who could carry that on? You know what I mean? Especially if you're not somebody who has a company to work with, you're an individual artist. Because that also takes people, artists, releasing the fear of being eclipsed, the fear of things being stolen from you, the fear of being forgotten. Because it happened before. It happens. You know, people have mentored others, and the others have taken their work, taken their ideas, taken their concepts, taken their people, and started classes or whatever. So these are two key things, I think, that may prevent us, and maybe have prevented some of our progenitors from really understanding the importance. I think a number of them were actually might have been threatened by our generation. What I know about our generation is that we were very serious about the arts as a way of living.
Yeah.
And maybe we seem like we really eclipse some of those who taught us things.
True.
And so people tended to hold things very tightly. Some are still holding things very tightly, which I don't know how it's going to work out for them in the long run. But yeah, I think whereas previous generations might have been willing to just kind of go along with the pioneers, just kind of go along with them and be their canvases and be their whatever, we diverged. We weren't afraid of, moving elsewhere, going to study somewhere. And maybe they were afraid we're going to, be invested in and then just run away with them things. So what we haven't learned is, I think, haven't learned the kind of eldership that is okay with allowing, except for maybe Professor Netlupad was different as an elder. He didn't mind you moving. He didn't mind you going, because for him it was a circle. Inevitably you would be coming back. Inevitably you'd be mentioning NDTC. Inevitably it would all return. But succession planning, I'm not so sure about that. Right? So in the eldership, in certain ways, I got a good thing from him. But in terms of succession planning, what I saw happening when he passed, you want something so thought of. It's like a will that is just written, people who are already prepared, and everybody is understanding that these persons have been prepared to take over the mantle, and there's agreement, And you don't find that in the arts.
Just to add to what you said, because it's not just when you're sick or when you're dying, but sometimes you just get tired of doing that thing, or you know that you're going to go on and do something else. And you want to prepare somebody, you're working on whatever it is that you're doing, and you need to prepare some people to keep it going, because you might be moving on to another thing, another project or another phase of whatever. The other thing, and there's another thing that I'll bring up later, but the other thing I want to call out, because he's right here with us, I want to call out Michael Holgate, because he is somebody that I have observed who actively mentors people.
Yes.
He's always mentoring people.
I was hiding. A bad call. Okay. Yes.
Come on, always.
I was wondering what. Yeah, I do.
I mentor people ever. And it's something that I admire about him. He always has people and he's and he's showing them what he does and how he does it, and he's and he's creating processes with them and not just giving them processes, and he's listening to what they say and adopting their methods. So
exactly. That's it, Mike, because it's not that you're not going to feel threatened by a really talented someone, you see, who is coming up, and you say, oh boy, this person is really talented, and they could be my place. But you also can say, they can teach me something as well, because mentorship is not a one-way street. You learn as much from your mentee. I've found you learn as much from your mentee as your mentee learns from you, if you are willing. And so there's growth for both persons. And when you are growing, and you can make a decision that says, okay, I don't have to stop. I don't have to still be at the same level by the time that person reaches where I'm at.
Exactly.
Because if you are growing, if you're continually growing, the same people you're giving your everything, and you can just shift your mind and say, no, okay, they're at that place now, so I don't need to be doing that anymore. I need to be doing something else. I'm free. I'm free to get bigger stuff, do bigger stuff. And so that is also a pushing thing for me. So when I'm giving my stuff to persons and stuff like that, it's not that I don't feel a little threatened sometimes. But I just override it. Like, this is just impetus for you to grow more.
How do you find your mentees? Do they approach you?
Yes.
Yeah, they usually do.
I would say 70%. Like I did something recently, but like Desmond came up to me one day when he just came to Philip Sherlock Center. I think the first time I'd ever seen him. He came to the Philip Sherlock Center and he said, are you Michael Holgate? And I said, yes, I am. He said, you're going to be my mentor.
Okay.
And I've had other people who do the same thing. And then there are other persons who I have said, like, I think you need a little bit of guidance. Are you willing for me to
right
for you? And so I've done that. And there are people who, like, even recently, this last production that I worked on for Edna College called Boss Big. There are people who at the end of the production, I just send at the end of the production, I just send a message to about 3 persons, and I say, this is my feedback from watching you over the past few weeks that I've worked with you. Is how I see you in the future, and these are the things that I think you need to work on. This is what you're excellent in. Don't pay attention to people if they say anything about this. You are really, really good at that. You think you're not a dancer, but stop saying that, because you dance. You move very well, and you can be, if you choose to be. You're singing this, you're dancing this, you're acting this. And so just that process of giving feedback is so important to us as artists. So once you've started that process, you don't have to do that, continue it, The person recognizes the value of it, and so they can now go and seek it. Other persons. And in fact, one of the other things that I said to some of these persons, I said, and I named names. I said Neila Ebanks, Marvin George, Blacka Ellis, and there's one other person I said, Camille Pomina. Those persons, go and find them. Go and let them mentor you. So I've said it to different persons. Go and let them mentor you. Go and have a conversation with them, because these persons have something within them to give, and they have the willingness to do it. And so I'm not just mentoring, but I'm also setting up other people to be mentored. And that's a big session planning.
But conversely, Michael, I mean, I feel like I've begged people. I've begged people to say, "Oh, come on, and see what I do and be part of it." But I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Are they intimidated?
I don't know, or maybe in my estimation, and I could be wrong, is that it just doesn't align with, I guess, what they think is important.
Okay, possibly. I mean, and it's free choice. Yeah. But I mean, Mikey Harris, you're intimidating,
Yes.
Because, and you wouldn't see it, but because you're so multi.
Yeah.
And you're so multi excellently. I can see where, like, a younger artist would be like, I might just not talk any sense. I don't know. As like they may not feel that they're even qualified to be mentored. And I mean, that's not for you to do anything about. It's just the right person will be okay with it, would not be intimidated.
Yeah,
You know?
I think one of the things too, Mike, is that because what you do comes so easily to you, you don't see how traumatizing it can be to somebody else. And so in the ease and effortless ease with which you talk about it, and you know that can be intimidating. Your way of using technology is intimidating to me. It's intimidating. It's just I'm tell you otherwise you're technical and you refuse to take it on. For me, it's just like, oh my, I don't think you understand how frustrated I get when I see, like, my assistant came and set up this thing for me. Yeah, I just said, please, you need, because I just to
be frustrated.
Yeah, frustrating. And so, Mike, because you have that capacity, you have it so easily. You understand technical things so easily, and you don't see how other people don't get it. Sometimes I think it might be intimidating because people don't want to look bad to you.
Yeah, but that's the whole point of it. I mean, if it is if it is a challenge, then I can break it down because I'm good at that too. I'm good at breaking things down.
Yeah.
You know what is interesting is this is what I found as well, because my mentorship journey is very organic. It's really very organic, and it usually comes out of me being able to be supportive of an underdog. Usually that's what it is.
Yes.
Someone who is not who you'd consider the strongest person within the field or the strongest person within a class program, but who has a particular vision and a certain kind of commitment to that. And so it's every so often, you know. And I guess maybe because of sometimes it's not even about the work, it's about the life journey, it's about that, and then that may make it less intimidating for them.
Yeah.
So you're right, and so then it can be more into the work they're making, and then they do things for me as well. I commission them to do particular kinds of things, and so we have this kind of organic sort of relationship where I too am learning, but I'm also trying to be more like a kind of a larger container that they can bounce off of and go wherever and bounce off of again. And they always know, so much so that some of my mentees are now like living their dreams, making film stuff abroad and dancing with companies abroad. I mean, it involves for me also making those network links that only I can make because of the generation that I'm in and who I know, knowing that their talent and their commitment will just do the rest of it. All I have to just give them this.
Yeah.
You know? But there are I wonder for you, for example, Mikey Holgate, when the mentee comes to you, right? Maybe it's because you're in acting, so many will come to you, but there are people who somebody even spoke to me about it a couple weeks ago and was asking if we could do something about this. Somebody who's shy, somebody who doesn't know how to open up to even ask, and so might get overlooked by a potential mentor or something like that. Like, have you had anybody like that who has become, whether organical or otherwise, like a mentee to you? And is there anything you could suggest to somebody who has that as a personality type? You know?
So I think because I'm also naturally an introvert, I see introverts, I see their potential, and I see how they can be aligned to different people and to different things. Like even the persons who I said, Neila Ibanks, Marvin George, Camille Kwamina, and Raka Ellis, and so on. Two of those persons are introverted persons who I think would benefit from talking with you guys in different, but some are also extroverts. But the whole point is that I think you know how some people just naturally dance, some people naturally sing, some people naturally are good with cooking. I think the most natural thing for me to do, apart from writing, is to see somebody's potential and to start to talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it's second nature. I just start to talk to them about it, even when they don't want to. Sometimes I think I chat too much, and I'm like, Michael, shut up. Nobody asks you to do this. Nobody asks you your opinion on this. Nobody. If you come to me and you say, you're just around me and you say, oh, my back is hurting me. I say lower or mid back or
Right.
upper back.
Right.
You know, mistake. You know what? And then you say mid back, and I say, okay, all right. So that's money issues. I'm gonna start going to your business. So naturally, I do that. And so, because I naturally do that, that is a kind of mentorship, a facilitator, mentorship type of thing. And so people can respond to that easily. And when they do, I'm gonna continue. And so that is how I have. That's why I would say I have so many mentors and in fact mentees. And in fact, I even have, I think, I don't know if you call this mentorship as well, but there are things that I seem to have done because so many people have come up to me and said, Michael, you don't know, yeah, you don't know how me start do such and such, right?
Yeah.
And like, no, what you talking about? And like people who are doing some really phenomenal things, and they say, you don't remember that is you said to me, go and do such and such, right? And up to recently, very recently, somebody said, Michael, you know, says you start me on this journey, right? And I said, oh yeah, man, yeah, man. And I don't know what I said, I don't know what I did, but it's just that there's something that is natural for me to do, you know, to see the potential and just jump in and try to point the person in a particular direction or bring alignment to a certain thing. So yeah. So to answer the second part of your question is how do you get somebody who might be more introverted to
How would you
go
suggest to them? Yeah.
so I think what I would say is don't be afraid. There are two ways you can get mentorship. One is you go to the person and you ask them outright. The second way is you don't ask them, you just go around them and you just pay attention until they see you. Red Nettleford was a mentor of mine for the longest time. Without even know, he probably did know he was mentoring me because I would go to the NDTC studios and I would sit outside, me and some of the ladies that were the older ladies who used to watch the club. And sometimes me alone, so much so that there'd be a time, I mean, I think there, I'd arrive at the bench or I'd arrive in the space and there's no bench there and he would indicate for somebody to go and carry me a chair. And I yes, and a chair come out and I sit and watch that class. This is while I was young in Ashe doing my thing and me leave my rehearsal from Ashe and go and sit and watch NDC classes. And so mentorship can be in the mind. Somebody's a mentor to you without you having to even speak to them.
Yeah.
And that's another very important part of mentorship.
Yeah, I've found that in my life, the in-person mentors, it's been tricky. I probably am not very easy to mentor because I am very much my own mind. I will ask for advice, but I'm also extremely stubborn and I'd rather try to battle it out myself than ask for any kind of help.
Yeah, you're stubborn because you are one of the most intellectually gifted persons I know. That's why you're so stubborn. And it's hard for people. It's hard for people to go around you. I mean, and it's hard for people to mentor you.
Yeah, and maybe that is what people have seen, but it's also that maybe I have also sometimes put mentors on a pedestal, and so not realizing that sometimes somebody can be really good artistically, but make some choices personally that throw me under the bus and those things, and so I've had to actually also look. I mean, of course, as you grow, your mentors change too. I've had to look on the outside of even the Jamaican sphere. So I think, okay, so which artist would I want to have as that example of how to live your craft? And then I come upon like a Bobby McFerrin. I say, okay, so the way that Bobby McFerrin rolls through, that I know of because I don't know the other parts. The way that he rolls through, music is his life, is this, is that, is sound, is he's on his own pathway, changing life from a frequency perspective. So, okay, ching ching there. And so you have a certain set of persons who are rolling through in their art making in the world, who I may never meet, but who I use their example to kind of help to even bounce off. Okay, so is what I'm doing would that get me to that kind of space as well? Yes or no? Let's see. It doesn't take the place of a real live mentor. And I do still have some. Yeah, but I guess I'd have different mentors for different kinds of things. So if it's a dance education mentor, I have Dr. DeGrasse Johnson. If it's a theater mentor, it's Eugene Williams. Like of a certain kind of age group and so on. So I have those, but it's not like, okay, I'm thinking of something, let me go and ask them what they think about it. It's not that sort of relationship.
Yeah.
Like Neila, I think I've boy, it's like both ways. It's just challenging. I think I haven't really had the kind of mentors either. I mean, I guess I have to a certain extent, but when I see other people being mentored and the care and the thing, I don't have that, right? I've not experienced that, I should say. And Neila, well, both of you know, I don't put nobody on a pedestal. There's nobody in the world.
No, you don't. Yeah.
For me, nobody. So even the people I love dearly, they're not on a pedestal. Not on a pedestal either. So, but
I would have you know that I'm joking.
Tiny pedestal. Okay, you're on a theater box, but okay. Yeah, but that's also been like sometimes I wonder. So what's wrong with me? Why me can't have a mentor too? To hold my hand and said, yeah, this is this and that and that. But again, maybe I am stubborn, but I'm also kind of on my own trajectory too.
Yeah.
So I mean, that could be it. I don't know.
I put people on pedestals all the time. Mike used to tell me that I should stop it. But I put them on the pedestal, and but when I put you on a pedestal, it doesn't mean I don't see your flaws. You know me, I am seeing through every God Almighty thing. Sheila is not watching for the God Almighty thing. I'll go put her on a pedestal. I put so many people on pedestals, and but even though I see through the flaws, I'm seeing through my own as well. Just because I see my own thing and I smell my own shit and I know that I'm not perfect. It's the same way that I look at those persons, and I really believe that everybody is trying their best, trying to do their best, and some people really want to mentor you. Some people want you to be elevated. They just don't want you to be elevated above them, because at the back of their mind there's something which it would trigger, which has nothing to do with you.
No, that's their
something which gives them a sense of it would destroy their self-esteem. It would. So what they're doing is finding ways to limit how much you can grow, and they're not even conscious of it. And even if they are, they have justified it to themselves in a way which seems palatable to their psyche, to their ego, to their everything. And so they might continue to do it. And for me, unfortunately, I understand those things. So I'll look at you and I'll see you doing those things to me, and I'll say, oh God, this person is doing that again. And I feel away and I think, but I allow and I let it slide and I let it pass. But a big part of that is I'm saying, at the end of the day, me and my God have a conversation. You cannot block my progress. You cannot stop the flow. You cannot. And so that's what I want people to understand, more than whether or not they see that this person has left me out of a thing or tried to keep me from stuff or tried, So
because it's interesting you brought it up, because we're kind of veered off of Ded-leff, but it's related, because as you said, mentorship is very important in terms of succession planning. And succession planning is not even just about the people who are going to succeed you immediately. It's who are you mentoring in terms of their own support. You're not mentoring a star, you're mentoring a system, right? And so what you brought up a while ago, Mikey, in terms of how some people's insecurities can have them competing with their mentee. there are quite a few, like I think, horror stories of mentorships that go awry because things are not clear cut. Mentorships that become, okay, you're gonna end up giving the person money, or mentorships that become things where the mentor says, okay, they deliberately exclude them from a certain network because they don't actually want them to rise. There are all of these kinds of possible pitfalls because people are human. And in the arts in particular, because the arts involves so much vulnerability, especially vulnerability of the young, I have found that people have almost, I was going to say, decided maybe to be lifelong mentees, and in that way have given over their agency and power as young creative artists and creative artists to these persons who are in quote unquote authority, to kind of drain them of their agency. So always being a mentee and never actually standing for themselves within whatever artistic space that is, or maybe not even understanding how to be a positive mentor to the younger ones who are coming into that space. Because I've been in spaces before where those who were there before us were quibbling and quabbling. So they couldn't teach us anything about getting along, but we could teach them about getting along. They were still in competition with each other while we were working in concert. How then they're supposed to be able to mentor us unless they were telling us what not to do, which is interesting in terms of a certain kind of mentorship. But I do find out here there are a lot of dynamics where, especially if your mentor is like a choreographer or your mentor is an artist director, not necessarily a dancer along with you, then it's like you're encouraged to just give over yourself. You just give over yourself. So anything the mentor says about you to you is taken as gospel, and your own self-esteem goes down. I want people to understand that being a mentee does not mean that you are to be stepped on and to be taken advantage of. And I would really love also for those who are more experienced within the fields to not take advantage of people vulnerably coming and asking, how can I become better at this? Or how can I help you in your process? How can you help in mine?
Question for each of you, I guess each of us. Back on the succession planning. If you could articulate it, what is it that you have, that you do, that you feel or whatever, that you would want to prepare someone else to take on and take over and continue once you've moved on to something else, or you retire, or you whatever? What thing is there? A process? Is there an aesthetic? Is there some knowledge or something that you feel? Is there a way to articulate that? The thing that you would plan a successor for, or prepare somebody a successor for?
A big question, because
Yes, because I just came to me and I don't know. I don't know it either.
Two things for me. For me, one is my thesis, or my PhD thesis, is that the whole idea of Caribbean mystery and how we can create anti-hegemonic theater or productions that help people to address Blackness in a way that does no harm. Because a lot of times we see these productions that are addressing issues of Blackness and identity and so on, and when you check it out, to me, it's doing a lot of harm, because when people sit and watch it, they're thinking, oh, the plight of the Black man as a slave and stuff like that. And I want to get out of our head that we were slaves. I want to shift it around. And so my Caribbean mystery looks at it in a different way. And I want that new way of looking at it to proliferate. I want that out there. And I want somebody to carry that through or many somebodies to carry it through in many different spaces. So there's that. And then there's also the way in which I facilitate creative leadership, the way in which I pull people together and give them certain type of freedom. Sometimes it bite me, sometimes it affects me, bite me, nip me, sometimes I work with people and I have to remind them that I am the person who is in charge. Because I've given you so much leeway. I've taught you so much, and not necessarily teaching you the specific skills, but also teaching you something about the value of your skills in this space, in this organization, in this place. And it bite me in the butt because the person now leaves me off emails or does certain things which I don't like, but that is one of the things that I would like to pass on in terms of succession, the facilitation of leadership and how teams of leaders can work together to facilitate a wider empowerment and a wider growth and development space and platforms for larger masses of people. Because what I like to do is work with leaders. I like to work with leaders. I like to work with creative leaders. And I like to help creative leaders to develop relationships that help them to work and bring all of their people together.
We. Thinking, right? Because I think I would like people to carry on a commitment to liberation in their work, whatever the work is, particularly if it's choreography, but what as a principle, I would like that to be passed on through me to younger artists in terms of understanding the importance of the arts, just for liberation from any particular oppression, because humanity seems rife with oppression as something that wants to be a part of human nature, which I don't think it is, right? So there's that. And then there are my works, some of the works that I have that I do think step beyond personal speaking of something that I'd like to see remounted, I'd like to see carried on. I would love to leave those in the hands of somebody who, or people who will do them justice over time. But that in and of itself means then that I have to fix them well, and I have to explain them well, and I have to document them well. Especially if I don't have a group of people who I'm already working with and training with. And that's the thing about me, because I've tried to create community in that way, and it doesn't work for me. I find I create community through my choreography, through my choreographic processes. And then once people have worked with me in a certain way, and then maybe they might work with me again in a certain way, they may get certain other principles, and continue to feel themselves connected to that part of the community. I have people who have choreographed on from Dance Society like 20 years ago, who can still remember the way they felt about themselves and about each other and about dance when we were working on a piece of choreography. So it's recently I've come to the understanding that I'm not necessarily supposed to create this company, and this company is going to stay together for 20, 30 years. And it may not be like that. It might really be through whatever choreographic process that I'm in. That is where that mentorship is going to happen. And the succession planning is maybe not even about the work itself, but it might be about the principles and the processes. So I have to think through that some more. But I do have some works that I would like to last. And then in terms of processes of getting certain kinds of outcomes, particularly with dance, for almost anybody. But sometimes I think for me, that may be through succession planning as much as it may be through documenting and writing. It's also something that we don't always understand is a part of leaving legacy. So you're leaving the legacy for those who are out there in far corners to pick up and still and continue to disseminate. Because quite often the persons who are around us may not be ready for some of that information. And what I've found as well is that when that's the case, especially when teaching is your primary thing, so you are, especially in Jamaica, you are around a number of people who can't always see the vision that you're seeing for them and for the work. Sometimes you wonder if the vision that you're seeing even makes any sense, because you're talking and nobody not hearing, you're asking and nobody is doing. So I'm thinking that it might be to broaden the idea of where your mentees might be, or where the success, what the success planning is, and to really spread it like the dandelion burrs, the dandelion seeds, and see where that takes. So I'm in a season where that's how I'm thinking about succession planning, because I don't have any particular heirs, I don't have any consistent group of people that I work with, but I do believe that certain principles of the ways I've done things, choreographically, administratively, and so on, are going to be living through some of the people who I have mentored already, But I will say this, though, and this is very important: for the works that you make, you have to, it's not just about your own copyright and so on. Of course, you copyright so that you know that you copyright them, they belong to you, you can decide what happens to them. As best as possible, try to figure out who you'd like to be responsible for them as product, or even if your processes are made into product. Think about who you can trust. It doesn't have to be a dancer or an artist. Who can you trust with your legal legacy? Things, when I tell you that nowadays, of course, the artist becomes dispensable in certain ways because of what can be done. Somebody can take an image and do holograms, and you dead and still have concerts and make money off of your legacy. And that's what people are doing. They're trying to grab up these masters of these dead artists and just capitalize and rinse and rinse and rinse, unless you in perpetuity sit down with a lawyer and say, okay, here is what I made, these things, they're of value. Here is what I would like. Here is who I would like them to go to National Library. Even that is a succession planning idea. Institute of Jamaica, where you want it to live. Set up your own trust in your own house, something. Who would you like to be in charge of that? And I think, to honestly, the earlier we think about it, the better. Because life, you never know. There's a situation
that happens.
Yeah, there's a situation now where there's a company, I won't call the name, a dance company, that had to create a different name in order to be able to do the artist. And I don't even understand the ramifications, but there's something. And of course, the director became incapacitated because of stroke and so on, to be able to do his work himself.
You just said the name.
Yeah, I could, but it's not my story to tell. But
you just said the name by context.
I know the world's small, right? But it's good, though, that people care enough about the legacy to say, how can we legally still make sure these things happen, and not just these particular things, but the spirit stays alive. And that in and of itself speaks to the way that he has been able to work with people over time, and garner that respect and love. It's just, I always wonder, is there a cleaner way? It could have been done, a clearer way. It could have been done, Yeah.
What's yours, Mike?
Oh, still thinking, but yeah, I have some. There's so I'm thinking in different categories. I think one of them is definitely a way of perpetuating and preserving cultural things like the folk music, or even just the facts and the histories and the whatever, the stories of people, of finding out ways of that I'd like, I'd love if somebody would continue that. And I would say continue in the way that I'm doing it. That's because there's a particular way that I do it. Because I'm not the only one doing it. There's other people doing it in different ways. I think also, I think I have an approach to the singing and also to music making that I'd love to pass on to someone or some people. Also, there's an approach to teaching too, which is to make people comfortable and make them feel that that is possible for them. So that kind of stuff I'd love for that to continue in some way. Um, when we were talking before, I realized that some of the mentorship, and maybe it's not mentorship, but some of the it could be. Well, some of the things that you do, the people who I have in some way mentored, they don't even know that I have, because I think sometimes I make connections for people without telling them or without them knowing, and have other people call them or whatever, and then they succeed in what they're doing from those connections, and sometimes not just the connections, but sometimes I will defend people, defend people, and take up a people,
Yeah.
it clears a path for them to do certain things. There's a way, but they will never know.
Yeah.
I think those things that's some of the stuff that I think I would like to have. I mean, Reggae Online would be great if someone took that on and going and expanded it, because this, I mean, apart from the courses, even this and stuff, you spoke about community, about trying to create a community in some way. I don't know if I'm successful yet, or if it ever will be, but trying to create to make some kind of a community, and not just within Jamaica, but among Jamaicans, but everywhere, because there's more of us outside Jamaica than in Jamaica.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been wondering, particularly because you both write music and so on, like, what about your royalties? Like, have you thought about when you pass?
We haven't. We haven't. We haven't. We should.
Yeah. I was also thinking, I mean, maybe as artists, we need to think as big as, people like Rhodes. But yes.
Yeah.
Those are lifting online. I roll my eyes because of the racism. But anyway, where you have the trust, or you have the fellowships, or you have the scholarships that bear your name.
Yeah.
That bear your name.
So I actually have a will. And in my will, I know where my house goes, I know where my car goes, I know even my creative works. I think I had something where I say, these creative works go to my niece and nephew and stuff like that. If them don't want to not with it, then I feel them business, but it goes to them. I think and so that is what I have. That's what I have done so far in terms of leaving something in trust.
The JBDC.
One more thing. Sorry, I intend to, by next year, set up a scholarship at the Edinburgh College for the Visual and Performing Arts. From me personally, for somebody who is interested in doing musical theater.
Okay.
Somebody who either wants to write, but somebody who is interested in doing musical theater, and so that person gets a certain amount of, call it a bursary rather than a scholarship.
Right. Yes.
Get a amount of money from my estate each year.
Yeah.
Or each semester. Eating and food, or maybe the fees, school fees, hall fees, and that type of stuff. And also through discussion with Marlon Sims, it was his recommendation, and we took it as JDU. We're going to also set up a bursary for someone to receive something from JDU each year. But that person, hopefully, it's somebody who is in that program between Edinburgh College and UWI. Somebody who's doing that joint program. A bursary from Jamaica Dance Umbrella.
You're gonna have to talk to UWI about that though, because I don't. Anyway,
UWI is very interested in that program, right?
They're interested in that program?
Yeah. I was actually on a committee discussing that, and even discussing it with other people from your school, Neila. Your name came up a whole lot because you are the person who is central to all of that, the best person to facilitate both UWI and the Edna space.
Okay. I'll answer my phone. I tend not to answer my phone. I'll answer my phone then. I was wondering. I was gonna say that Jamaica Business Development Company, JBDC,
Corporation, yeah.
yeah, corporation. Sorry, they did really good work over the pandemic in terms of trying to get the creative and artistic community together in these online fora. And
Okay.
a couple of them were about estate planning, really informative things. So they brought people from tax, people from legal spaces, insurance spaces, pension spaces, because that's not something a lot of creative people think about. You know, you don't
Right.
think about retirement planning and also estate planning. And then what you find is that when you've created so much and you pass, and if you have a whole heap of people and them something there, everybody will fight for piece of it and this and that, and it becomes, you know, whatever. So they did some good things. If people actually would like information, I believe they can actually go to them. It's not a plug, like nobody me, but I learned a lot in terms of what I should be thinking of as especially because we're in the pandemic and then like mortality was just kicking you in your face. So because of that, you know, it kind of jogged me to say, okay, let me start to think about these things. What am I leaving? You know, what do I feel is worth leaving? So people can check them out, you know, if they want any more information. But I
want a plug for JBDC because I find them very professional.
Well, yeah, I think they're doing quite well for us. And for any small business people, but particularly like for creatives, they're not doing badly at all. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna think some more, Mike, about what you asked.
Yeah.
That's a serious question. And not trying to model it, because my first inkling was like, ratted me for create community now to try to figure out who to leave it with and them something. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. I have to really look at myself.
Right.
Look at my ways of being and see what kind of passing down comes out of what is a natural, you know, organic way of doing that.
I just thought of something like with the folk fusion stuff that I've done and that I'm doing. I think because I might be able to teach a class that does that, and maybe I can break down the ones that I have done and give them the pieces and say recreate this, or say, you know, plug out the Jamaican and put in your own folk culture in this, and this is the way I did it. This is the structure. Now you create something using that method. So that could be one way.
What it feels like we're winding, but then there's something I want to ask. I want to ask you about the value of codification and the value of naming a thing when it comes to leaving a legacy, a creative legacy.
So I mean, I love it that you asked that, because that's something I didn't say, but it's a conversation I think I've had with both of you, but I've also had it with Mikey Bennett a lot. I remember when I went to Berkeley as an undergrad, I remember sending me emails saying, what are the different this about reggae, and how would you define this, and this? And he couldn't answer me at the time, and I don't think he understood what I was asking either, or why I was asking it. We had some more conversations, and he understands now that it is a way that codification is a way of us kind of making this ethereal thing solid in a way, and also assuming ownership of it because we've defined it, and also taking responsibility for how we advance it, how we innovate with it, how we change it, because this is our thing that we have defined, that we own, that now we can say, okay, so if this is version 1.0, then no, I want to do version 1.2 or version 1.3, and it's all this, and it's an offshoot of this, because we defined, and we know what the lineage is, and we know who the people are, who the communities are that created it, and we're aware of it, and we've owned all of that. And it means so much more. I think, well, for me, if I knew all of this, I think it would mean so much more for my identity as a Jamaican or as a Caribbean person. And the reason that I came to that realization is because I was doing all these courses for Latin American music and for this kind of music and whatever, and the things were codified.
Right.
And in my head is like, yeah, but why haven't we done that? Why haven't we codified? And you know, and I keep going back to the thing about like in Italy, where all the people who aren't even musicians, they know everything about opera and they can critique opera, and they
You
know
talk,
when opera is bad and they know when opera is good. But we just accept everything because we haven't really been intellectual about it. And
Right.
if you belch it out, yeah, so yeah, that wicked.
Yeah.
You know, when we could be more discerning.
As
yeah.
a people.
I think we're doing I think more and more we're doing it as as theater people. Like Eugene Williams has created his Anansi technique,
Mm-hmm.
and Raul Gibbons has been
Mm-hmm.
working on stuff, and he has published as well.
Yeah.
My thesis, as I said before, on Caribbean mystery. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so different persons are doing things in that direction. Not enough yet,
Right.
but there is the Center for Carnival Arts in Trinidad, and in Cave Hill there's another creative art and cultural arts faculty and so on.
Right. Yeah.
So people feel more inclined to do things in this area in order to codify and to solidify
Yeah.
in a term. And it is extremely important, not just for
Mm-hmm.
intellectual property rights, but just for so that our culture doesn't die,
Right.
so that our way of looking at the arts doesn't dissipate
Yeah.
into nothingness through the mechanism of appropriation
It
of
can
culture.
happen very easily.
So it's very important, and I think that some of it is happening. We just need to be more intentional about it,
Yeah.
or not only for ourselves but also to support others in doing it. If you see
But also,
somebody look like it should have codified,
Yeah.
I'll say it to them. Like King there keeps saying that to me. Clinton Hutton keeps saying to me, he keeps on saying to me, Michael, have you finished your thing yet? Have you written it up? And you should.
Yeah.
Matter. So we should say that.
Yeah.
but I think another important aspect of it, though, Mike, is almost like a next step, because once the people who are the creators and the intellectuals have codified, there needs to be another step where the people who have nothing to do with it but are of the culture also need to be included and to be informed and educated about it, so they're
Yeah.
aware of it. You know, because that's how it's gonna live on that way as well.
I'm gonna point out Dr. Steins.
I was just about to say that. Exciting.
Let me tell you, I'm gonna point out Dr. Steins because Lantec has evolved so much and has always been owned, but there's a particular effort in codification and in dissemination that she has undertaken. Of course, doing the PhD helped a lot with that because, of course, things had to be defended. The background and the philosophies, the exercises had to be really written out, photographed, that sort of thing. And so they had to be scientific and other kinds of breakdown as to what it is it does for the body. And so on. You had to go through that certain kind of rigor. Very, very important. Examinations, so not every person you see on the Lakadko stage is supposed to teach or can teach Lantec.
Yeah.
Yes, just like with Graham, to a certain level. I remember watching some exams, the drummer and the dancer get examined at the same time, which philosophically makes sense because each depends on the other one so much that if you and your drummer friend not in concert, one on the can pass and the other one fail. Both of them. So there are ways in which she has really set it up, and she has had a lot of work done with those who are in her, I guess you would say, her succession planning team.
Jessica.
Right, exactly. Who have been able to assist in the refining and the clarifying, and interestingly enough, those persons too, the initial part of it I think was happening with those bodies upon whom it was being made, like the Glendas, the Rimas, the Jackies, the Lisas, and the Clara of a certain generation. And then now the other kind of scientific thing happening when you have persons who have also like done the bachelor's and the master's in dance and dance related areas that can offer a different level of clarity, insight, just to see it working. It is ensconced in the CAPE curriculum, performing arts curriculum, because Dr. Steins and I and Hazel Franco from Trinidad were the three writers for the dance aspect of the performing arts curriculum. And even though it is not a curriculum that says it's not a conservatory type thing, so you have to learn Lantic, that's not it. But it's given as an example of a Caribbean form, just like Rivera technique from Cuba, or the way Aiko dance works, or the way any TC works in terms of their system. They don't call it a technique, but they have a particular set of systems and exercises that are examples of the way in the Caribbean we have codified ways of training Caribbean bodies and other bodies to move in a Caribbean way, to understand cultural, spatial principles, attitudinal principles through that, right? And so because it has been ensconced in there, examples of, for example, how, the star jump uses gravity as against a barrel turn using gravity or whatever, there's a proliferation across the region. Then now she has been able to say, okay, well, people know about this. I have dancers from all over the region because I am a Caribbean dance force. They're going to do some workshops in Grenada. We're going to do some workshops in Trinidad. And then now we have people who are asking particular kinds of insightful questions now about this codified technique, which is really and truly the only codified contemporary technique, modern technique coming up. As when you talk about the exercises, the origins, how they're developmental, how they're using choreography, all of that stuff is noted. We have other training systems, but the training systems kind of stop in the studio. Kind of stop in the studio, and she's taking it further. It's a big work.
It is
very, very, very big work, and you see how long it take.
Yes.
It takes a while.
It takes a while, and I think that the greatest value is when it's not even so much the choreography that she does with Lantic. When other people start choreographing.
We're seeing now. We're
Lantic.
2023, 24.
And that is the crux of the matter. When the value, because for me, Lantic is so important, because when I see somebody who is trained in Lantic, I don't want to say okay. So for me, let's just say one of the best dance teachers in Jamaica is Lantic Stein. And I generally say the best, right? I used to say she and Tony Wilson. I've been in their classes and feel it in my body, but you see the difference when somebody goes to La Cadca here and when they come out, what they can do, you say, my God, what a transformation. And what I love in particular, though, is the fact that dance, when they do Lantic and then come out after 3, 4, 5 years, right? They can still do dance all well, because a lot of the time, when the street dancers go into the studio to start to dance, they come out after 2 years, they've forgotten totally about how to do street dance. They no longer have that aesthetic in their spirit, in their soul, in their bodies. So in Lantic, you after the 3, 4, 5 years, you still can do dance, you still can wind it back.
But it's built in,
And you know West African dance. You come out, you know modern contemporary dance. You come out, you know ballet. You come out, you know some aspects of Indian dance. And so I'm just saying, what a phenomenal, fascinating Caribbean thing. And it's not like you know a little bit of something. What it makes you a dancer in a certain way that is really exciting for me. And so I'm one of the biggest fans of La Cadco, of Lantic, and of Lantic. So
it's really lovely to see this generation of choreographers who have continued their development through Lantic. Use it as that choreographic language. Jessica did it last year with a piece called Bubble. This dance works, and then Orville did it most recently as well at Dance Umbrella, in terms of using it even with music that you wouldn't expect, which is what kind of allows it now to breathe.
Yes.
And send and become even more universal as a language that people will understand, not just connected to the music that sounds like us and the cultural context that sounds like us, but now moved into another space, where you still see us. Because the truth is, as you said, Mikey Harris, Jamaicans are all over. Jamaicans are Jamaicaning in all of the context around. So our movement can also Jamaican in all of the musical context. That's what we're seeing. I mean, I'm excited. I really, really am excited. You know, one of the things I kind of sad about is that the counterpart is not happening, in the sense that, because I work at the School of Dance, I can tell you, we don't have enough people who are interested in that counterpart of it. So, the legacy requires somebody to write about it. And sometimes it may not be best that it's you are the person doing it, because you're also trying to make. So to write about and make it at the same time, kind of make we don't have enough people who are interested in dance studies, interested in performance studies, theater studies, the histories, the documentation, the archiving, the writing, the documentary making. And so it becomes really tricky, because we are generative and we're going to continue generating, but we don't have witnesses. We don't have
witnesses.
But we also don't have that as a course of study either, Neila. We don't really have the research or the documentation. We don't really have that as a performance.
My problem is
there's performance studies in the sense at the CCI at UWI,
Yeah, but I'm really talking about, you see, particularly because, all right, you see at Edna, it's a chicken and egg situation. So you say, we actually want to branch out into this other aspect of our art form, and they say, show us how many people want to do it. And we say, if we don't offer it, some people won't even know that that's what they want to do. And they say your numbers are too small, especially with dance. And so it keeps going like this. And so you pack up your 2 degrees with as much as you can, so that people who can get a little taste of this and a taste of that, and they can move off into. But the specialization actually needs to start from earlier. Like those students who are good at history, those students who are good at sociology and so on, but who are interested in dance as well, or even our music. Those are the ones who should be coming in. Not even that they want to be the makers themselves, but they're interested in the anthropology of it, and they're out there.
Yeah,
they are out there. But it's a chicken and egg sort of situation for us. So in the meantime, our ecosystem is populated with a lot of people who want to either be on the stage or make the things that are on the stage, but not the people who are interested in understanding why and how come. Actually, I spoke to one person recently. She's a beloved daughter of somebody who we know, who and love from Barbados, and she's at UWI, and she was saying, she discovered, because her mother is an artist, and she discovered early that, she doesn't really want to be the one who's on the stage. She wants to be the one to figure out why. Why are they doing this? Why do they have the drive to do this? How does that happen over time, generationally? And she's she's doing the UWI program.
Part of that comes down to what I like to call talent maximization as well. You see, and good counseling, good guidance counseling within the arts, and maybe that's also just mentorship, because yes, there is a need for the artists. Yes, there's a need for the people who are studying. Yes, there's a need for the management team. Yes, there's a need for agents. Yes, there's so many things that make up the creative and cultural industries, right? But people might feel this love for the arts, and they don't know that they don't have to do this thing.
Exactly. That's why the streamlining is important.
Yeah, and they don't know that there's a place for them. There's a space for them if they are not the best singer in the world, right? Like that, even for me, I tell people all the while, I say, look, I'm not the best singer in the world. I'm not the best songwriter in the world. I'm not the best actor in the world. I'm not the best actor in the world. I'm not the best choreographer in the world. I'm not the best of any of these. But there's a niche area for me that utilizes all of them, that gives me capacity and gives me a strength that nobody else has around me, because I have found a way to pull on all my strengths. And that is what need to be able to do with young people,
Right.
with creatives, young creatives, with artists, and just say, look here, what are you good at? Don't just tell me you're a singer.
Mm-hmm.
What is your niche? What is your area? All right, you're a singer. But are you a singer like Beyonce, or are you a singer like Nicki Minaj, or are you a singer like, and yes, singer and DJs and all of that? Or are you a beautiful singer, but drama is your thing, like Alicia Taylor? Or is it, are you made for musical theater? Are you
Right.
There's a wide range of things
Right.
of possibilities, but people are just not exposed to them and
Right.
guided into them. And that's something I love to do.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, I love to guide people into their niche areas, especially because finding mine helped me to shine, to love my life and to love the work that I do. And so I like people to do that, but there needs to be more of that, helping people to find their space and find their passions and to maximize on their talent.
And it can't just be in this theory around the things that we do can't just be at the postgraduate level. Something has to be, it has to be happening at, I mean, CAPE is trying, but was trying until they made everything multiple choice. I'm rolling my eyes again for those people listening. But in terms of the development of that kind of critical curiosity around art making coming up through time, through the education system, it's very, very critical in the bachelor's program situation also.
Right.
But there's one of the people who is a mentee still, who has moved into filmmaking, only had the option of doing a performing degree. He's also good at choreography, actually quite nice at choreography. Dances with soul, but didn't necessarily have the body that people say you must have as a dancer. You know, that's my story. And so hence the underdog thing, right? And so, but what the person had was a curiosity about from a teenager. He came to me when he was at school and I was at Edna, and showed me his scrapbook with things from the newspaper that have to do with anything dance at all. He was cutting that out and putting that in. So you say, okay, so this person has a different view of what it is that's happening on the stage when he's on the stage or when he's creating on the stage. I'm gonna bet on this one. I'm going to actually pour into this one. And there are so many people who, coming from that Jamaican tradition of, well, them not really dance, and them not really have legs, them, and very, and so therefore, and those, we're not really, we'll laugh after them because people did. There are so many people who rejected him, not seeing the other part of what he was really supposed to be doing.
Name starts with a J, right? Okay, great. Right.
Yes. And he continued and continued and continued and continued. So much so now that, of course, he has this wonderful documentary about one of the major pioneers in Jamaica, Ivy Baxter. And once again, there I go. And look at this. And I will say this with my chest: many of the people who were being terrible to him during his figuring out wanted to be in that documentary and talking about it. Wow, we always knew we could do this, and so on and so forth. And we just like, really? Because you don't see the other part of the dance aspect that needs to be filled out. And everybody, sometimes it's not the people who are the big stars who you must put your full investment in, because they're going to leave. Who are the ones who have a different engagement with that cultural material, that artistic material, who love it so much? They love the interior of it. Those are the ones you need to look towards to help to bolster, because they're going to fill it out.
I like the idea of the filling out and the fleshing out, as I would say then, because I'm always talking about the roots of progression, and there should be roots of progression for an artist. You start out here, you go to primary school, where you're doing JCBC at the same time, you go to high school, you have high school band and stuff like that, or you're doing all together, or you're doing these things. You go to college, you have dance works, you have dance society, you have all of these things, dance, you have drama society, a school drama festival and stuff like that. You go on further, and so I think that there are enough spaces, it's just for us to fill it out, fill out the spaces, flesh out those spaces, invest in those spaces, and make something of those spaces. So somebody like your mentee can know that, okay, this is not the space for me, but obviously because all of these spaces have been fleshed out and filled out, I can see somewhere that I belong.
Right.
The structure.
And that's a part of of growth and development. Maybe that's a part of what we need to do. That should be our succession plan.
But the structure and the space needs to be there. I mean, I think, and why I hate to always say this word, but I'm going to say it. Government. They need to understand that the arts, like most things, is like the iceberg, and the people that you see on stage is just a tip, and below the surface is the 2/3 of everything else, all the support, all the structure, all the education, all the training, all of this, all of that, all the logistics, all the movers and shakers. Sometimes you never see them. So you can't come into a meeting about Edna and say, when are they going to produce another Beanie Man? That don't make that is just backward.
Right. Yeah.
You could say every year.
Yes.
Every year.
It's just backward. It's stupid.
Right.
It's stupid.
I mean, there is. I'm gonna give it some thought as well, because I didn't realize how passionate I was about it until we started speaking. So in terms of even succession planning, I guess that's part of the liberation too. Liberation of this kind of closed-mindedness about this. I don't like to call it industry. This ecosystem that we have been a part of, that all parts of it need to be fed.
They're all important. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all important. They need to be fed, and we have too many brilliant minds who are so ready to analyze, and debate with us and write about it. It has to be written about, because if it's not written about, it unfortunately in this world doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It has to be passed down, transmitted through body and through voice and those in-person things. It can be transmitted virtually, but it needs to be. And if we don't write about it ourselves, other people are going to write their versions of it, and we know how that goes. And I guess that's idea. Is that related to succession planning, guys? I don't know. I've got
in a way, yeah, because you're documenting, and yes, of course.
Yes, yeah.
So we went pretty long today. We went like a 1.5, almost 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
We're doing two things and in one. We're doing succession planning and we're doing mentorship.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're very important topics. I love the places that we went.
Yeah.
And yeah, really cool. I hope we get some interesting feedback. Hope your friend in China is listening.
Oh,
I love the feedback that they give, even the stuff that I don't necessarily agree with. I love that they're
it's important
and engaging. So, all right. Any one last thing I don't want to say before we go? I don't want to cut it off. Because I always call me, I'm cutting off with the music. But
play out. We always play out.
You can talk over the music. Hold on.
Yeah.
Turn it down. Yeah. Anything else?
It's just be artistic to understand our value. If you understand the value, then you won't be able to understand the legacy and of
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So until next time on the what is this name again? Tallawah Table.
Yeah, the tabletop a while ago.
The tabletop.
Later again.
Oh God. Until next time on the Tallawah Table.